Hi, welcome to our channel Good News. We've been under pressure to respond from viewers for a while now. It's a cute question, for sure. And the majority of viewers might find it surprising to learn that over 30% of scientists in the semiconductor sector are Chinese. Many people learn that the Nvidia CEO is Chinese. In 1963, he was born in Taipei. And fewer people are aware that the Chinese woman who saved AMD is. In 1969, Lisa Su was born in Taiwan. Intel, AMD, and VIA were the three major companies in the CPU market in previous years. Taiwan is the home of VIA. A Shanghai-based corporation purchased VIA a few years ago. China also has the authority to create x86 architecture CPUs based on AMD and VIA first-generation technologies. However, the processors used in mobile terminals are generally based on ARM architecture. While Intel and AMD, which also includes VIA, provide CPU processors primarily for desktop, laptop, and server computers. China is authorized to create CPUs with the ARM architecture. The M1 processors used by Apple and Huawei CPU devices are both based on the ARM architecture. Chinese CPU architecture, Long Arch, which has passed China's third-party intellectual property examination, was published by China's Lungxin on April 15, 2021. The most important development in the Chinese semiconductor sector has been that it is important to note that China exclusively uses its own technology for all semiconductors utilized in its space projects. And as we've already mentioned, China's hardware and software are also the foundation of its supercomputers. Chinese people, both on the mainland and in Taiwan, are proficient in computer technology. Chinese scientists are employed all over the West. ASML, the only business in the world capable of producing EUV lithography equipment, is a great example. ASML is unable to sell EUV lithography equipment to China due to U.S. export control regulations. Though the Chinese Academy of Sciences has declared its intention to enter the market, Tsinghua University has also made strides in the field of extreme ultraviolet light sources. Around 2,900 of ASML's approximately 5,000 patents were created by Chinese researchers. Let's say the US keeps trying to prevent ASML from exporting its lithography equipment to China. China will then need to create its own, which it is already doing. Then, a few years later, consumers could find it challenging to compare the prices of a lithography machine and a washing machine. As we've shown repeatedly in prior films, China not only has the largest talent pool in the world, but it has also sent thousands of scientists to the West. The majority of them are able to return to their native country if necessary. Numerous high school students from China travel to the United States every year since China opened its doors to the West. They bring in a ton of money to fund U.S. colleges and develop into an essential component of the U.S. high-tech sector. The majority of them choose careers in science and technology to continue their education, and many of them choose to remain in the country once they have finished their studies. As a result, more than half of scientists in the U.S. are of Asian heritage. About 30,000 of the 120,000 scientists in the United States were Chinese. 250,000 Chinese work in the semiconductor industry in Silicon Valley. Many of the R&D personnel at several well-known American corporations, including Intel, AMD, Qualcomm, and even Google, are Chinese. Many of them have Chinese ancestry and have made significant contributions to research and development in the fields of semiconductors, 5G, AI, and other technologies. The U.S. finally reaps the rewards of China's tens of billions of dollars spent on their training. The success of the United States in the semiconductor sector depends on its ability to retain the Chinese scientists. Donald Trump, a previous U.S. president, did China a great favor by driving a large number of Chinese researchers and students home. Chinese people will be overjoyed to welcome those talents back if the Biden administration and other administrations maintain Trump's Chinophobia approach. American universities are now again accepting Chinese students after realizing their error. It was stated a few days ago that students with a F or M visa might take a direct flight to the U.S. However, the COVID epidemic highlighted the United States' weaknesses, and the rise in Asian hate crimes makes the country less alluring than it once was. Young Chinese people nowadays are not like their parents and think of themselves as being on the same level as individuals in rich nations. The world has learned from China's success over the past few decades that a non-white nation can likewise get to and remain at the center of the international stage. However, China also made some errors and came dangerously close to being captured by Western economists who support globalization and a free market system. Lenovo is the ideal illustration of the trap. If every Chinese company operated like Lenovo, China wouldn't have a chance to succeed on many fronts. Because Lenovo is merely an assembly line, the US does not bother to penalize it even if it has its headquarters there. Instead, it makes use of US CPUs like Intel, AMD, and others, buys memory from South Korea, buys hard drives from the US, Japan, and South Korea, and then installs operating systems from US giants like Microsoft and Google. Chinese internet users were thrilled and believed it to be a success when Lenovo purchased IBM's ThinkPad product line, but it ended up being a burden rather than an advantage. We do not yet know how many customers would prefer to purchase pricey ThinkPads from China when end users in the US may get laptops at discounts of 30% to 50% with comparable or better specs. China's leading expert in information technology is Ni Guangnan. Like China's Don Quixote, he wished to create China's own hardware and operating systems. Many Chinese businesspeople and economists believed that China should aggressively engage in and benefit from globalization. Therefore, rather of producing their own systems, processors, memory, hard disks, and other essential components, China has purchased and continues to purchase those parts from just a small number of manufacturers, including Microsoft, Intel, AMD, Samsung, Hitachi, Panasonic, Qualcomm, and TI. We just published a video where we discussed Huawei's Harmony OS. Having an operating system that manufacturers can use on nearly everything makes many viewers happy that China has finally achieved this. China today may be different if Chinese scientists had heeded Ni Guangnan's advice 30 years ago while developing China's systems, processors, and other sorts of chips. China imported 543.5 billion chips in 2020, a 22% increase over 2019, for a total worth of $350 billion, according to data from China Customs released a few months ago. There are tens of thousands of Chinese scientists, researchers, and laborers working abroad who are responsible for the massive imports. More and more Chinese professionals would leave the US in search of growth prospects in China if Donald Trump remained in the White House and kept up his anti-China policies. 10 years ago, China's semiconductor market began to boom. But regrettably, it was quite backward before to 2010, thus the majority of foreign researchers, students, and Chinese scientists abroad preferred to work in the United States. One way or another, the United States offered a more laid-back environment for scientific study, while at the same time paying more. As a result, many graduates in science and technology from Tsinghua University and Peking University traveled to study in the US and stayed there. In the past 25 years, the US semiconductor sector has experienced remarkable growth. The sales volume roughly quadrupled from 70 billion to 208 billion between 1997 and 2020, accounting for close to 50% of global revenues. Chinese-born scientists made significant contributions to the development of the US semiconductor industry. Tsinghua University established the Institute of Integrated Circuit in April 2021 in an effort to develop more indigenous chip talent. The hundreds of thousands of students employed in Silicon Valley, according to the majority of netizens debating this issue, are from Tsinghua and Peking University. Therefore, there wouldn't be a talent problem if they were to move back to China. Sadly, Trump exited the White House and was no longer able to assist China in deporting those children. The same or better platforms must be made available in China for scientists to conduct basic research. China has been concentrating on application technology for many decades to strengthen its economy. It is now time to build the foundational concepts in biology, medicine, physics, and mathematics. 7 Chinese institutions have established pertinent industry integration innovation platforms, including Tsinghua University, Peking University, Fudan University, and Nanjing University. Jiangsu Province also constructed a brand new Nanjing Integrated Circuit University to train specialists exclusively for semiconductor firms. To prepare more workers for China's chip sector, certain higher education institutions in the provinces of Zhejiang, Jiangsu, and Guangdong are also proposing to add additional pertinent courses to their curricula. Unreliable data indicate that there are currently more than 300,000 skilled workers needed in China's semiconductor sector. The nation has become aware of the gap. The first level of discipline will be enhanced for the integrated circuit, and top colleges are also actively creating relevant programs. China must alter its perspective and accept or even promote failure, though. Given that scientific research has a low success rate, it should honor and love those scientists who experience repeated failures. Instead of glorifying those on-screen sissies, science should be praised. The good news is that China is quickly catching up. 140 billion chips were delivered on China's mainland in the first 5 months of 2021, a 48.3% increase over the same period in 2020. China still has a long way to go, but eventually it will succeed. China is being compelled by the United States to develop an inclusive economy, and this will happen soon. Thanks for watching in this video. You can add your ideas or suggestions below. Please keep following our channel and like our videos.